Let's talk about consommé, probably the coolest thing that you'll never do again as a culinary student. Like I said, this is an important aspect for clarifying stocks because consommé ultimately is a very clear, very flavorful broth. Consommé, C-O-N-S-O-M-M-E, consommé. I always want to put an extra E on it, consommé. Consommé is a stock or a broth that's been clarified to remove impurities. Clarified stock to remove impurities. Think about when we make a stock, there's all kinds of stuff in there, right? When you strain that stock out, there's all kinds of bits of meat or chicken and the mirepoix and, you know, some of the rendered fat and things like that, all held in suspension in a stock. Stock's generally very cloudy. Well, if we're talking about real classical French cuisine, consommé is this very clear soup with an incredible flavor. So what we've got to do is take a stock with all these impurities and figure out how to get it out there. Now, it's not going to work with tongs. It's not going to work with a ladle. You can't pick microscopic things out with tweezers either. We have to do this from a scientific fashion. A well-made consommé should be highly flavorful. And rich. Well, geez, if I'm going to take a stock that's pretty flavorful and then I'm going to do something to clarify it and pull out these little bits and pieces and stuff, aren't I also taking away some of the flavor? Right? If you're going to pull things out, and now I tell you that a consommé has to be highly flavorful, and I'm taking a lot of these bits that would give it flavor, well, how do I make sure that the consommé is always the most flavorful I can possibly be? You start with the best stock. You need to start with the most flavorful, the best made stock. An excellent stock is absolutely necessary for consommé. Otherwise, you're going to have something that tastes like water. And this is too involved a process to make water out of it. The process. For making consommé. The process for making consommé. You start with a cold stock. Grease-free. All of our ingredients are going to be cold for consommé, but you especially want the stock to be degreased, and this is by putting it in the refrigerator, skimming that fat off the top. Very often, if you warmed the stock, or the stock is still a little bit warm, you can take a paper towel and just kind of drag the paper towel across the top of the stock, and it'll soak up a lot of that fat, degreasing a stock with a paper towel. But it's best that it's cold and grease-free. It's combined with what we call clear meat. Quote unquote, clear meat. That's a phrase and certainly something that's going to wind up on a quiz somewhere. What is clear meat? Clear meat is a mixture of egg whites, ground meat, mirepoix, egg whites, some kind of ground meat, mirepoix, carrot, onion, celery, of course, seasonings, if we'd like, and very often an acidic product, which is why I brought up acids today. An acidic product, whether vinegar, lemon juice, tomato, things like that. Now the idea is to make this as clear and white as possible. What we do is combine, cold, combine all. You make a pretty disgusting stew out of egg whites, meat, mirepoix seasonings, and acidic product. When we add heat to it, yes. You're one step ahead of me. That's okay. Good question, though. So you're going to add all the stuff. Imagine egg whites and raw ground meat mixed with stock. It really doesn't look very good when you start out. We bring this to a very low, soft simmer. Low, soft simmer. Temperature of simmer, anyone? 180, 185, thereabouts, Fahrenheit. Not a violent boil. Bring a consommé to a violent boil, you will wind up with a cloudier stock than you even started with. It has to be very, very delicate. Because what happens is that the albumin, A-L-B-U-M-E-N, albumin is egg white. The egg whites coagulate. Coagulation of proteins, which happens at what temperature? 165, thank you. So is 165 higher than 180? No, 180 is higher than 165. That's why we have a nice soft simmer. And it's only 15 degrees or so above. 15, 20 degrees or so above. So we're not trying to make a big egg white omelet. We're trying to use this in a way that as it slowly comes up to temperature, the egg whites coagulate. The albumin, the meat, the ground meat coagulates. It stiffens and shrinks. Ground meat coagulates. Well, what does this do? This grabs all your mirepoix. Mirepoix becomes suspended in this meat and egg white omelet that's floating on top of your stock. Suspended. And what happens when it reaches 165 degrees on its way to 180? It forms what's called a raft. R-A-F-T. Raft forms. And what this is all the coagulated material, the egg whites, the clear meat suspended with the mirepoix with your seasonings, and it creates this seal, if you will, on top of your simmering stock. And the idea being, of course, simmering is a convective process. Things heat, rise, cool at the top of the pot, fall, heat, rise, cool. So as that stock comes up, meets the raft and all the coagulated whites, it acts as a filter. And it filters and grabs all the impurities, all the miscellaneous little microscopic as well as visible things, and you start to see this raft form, and it'll get bigger and grayer, and it'll start to grab more and more of these things. If the raft covers the entire top of the pot, you want to tear a little bit of opening in it, because we need this convection. It needs to come up and down, not just underneath it, but it needs to come up and down. But it's very important, once this raft forms, do not F with it. Do not stir. Do not let it come to a boil. Don't bump the pot. It is very, very delicate, because if you destroy this raft, then what happens is the egg whites fall down into the stock. The clear meat, the mirepoix, falls down into there. Generally, it burns on the bottom, and then you got burned eggs on the bottom of your stock pot because it's not on the top, it's on the bottom, and it turns into a worse mess than you started with. You're further clouding the stock. So it's a very delicate process. It's not difficult to do. Anybody can mix together a bunch of cold things, put the heat on it and let it go, but it's delicate in that your skill and your eye are very, very important. So the raft strains the stock, and it adds also some of the flavor. The mirepoix, the meat, egg whites don't have any flavor, but adds a little bit of flavor to the stock. It's amazing when you get a good consommé and you look down in the bowl and it's like, this looks like water. And then you taste it and you go, oh my God, that tastes like so much like chicken or so much like beef. It really fools the eye and the mouth. It's unbelievable.